Global happenings today. We communicate. We analyze global news.
Yesterday, Nigerians woke up to a statement made by Tinubu Abbas, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and what he said bordered on Nigeria's debt profile. And he's raised so much concern about Nigerian debt profile. Speaking yesterday at the opening of the 11th Annual Conference and General Assembly of the West African Association of Public Account Committee at the National Assembly, Abuja, Abbas was quoted, who was represented, he was actually represented by one Babatunde Salam. And he said that Nigeria's debt has reached a critical point. It was an issue of discourse among many Nigerians. But this morning we woke up to something very different, and it will shock you, just as it's been happening when Bola Tinubu makes a statement, someone will come and rephrase it. Say, actually, that's not what he said, though. That's the same thing that has happened, and this time around is coming from the office of Tinubu Abbas, and he says that he did not raise any alarm. He had denied reports that he raised an alarm and condemned borrowing by the federal government of Nigeria. We're going to be looking at it in a jiffy, because this statement actually came via his special advisor on news media, Jowosimi Enitan, and he says his submission was that if properly managed, public debt can be a veritable tool for national growth and development. And I ask a big question: what's the difference between what he said yesterday and what he said today? Now, but first of all, before we dive into what his rebuttal, let's just look at some of the key words he used. According to him, he said, as at the first quarter of 2025, Nigeria's total public debt stood at 149.39 trillion, equivalent to about 97 billion US dollars. Even more concern is the debt to GDP ratio, which now stands at roughly 52%, well above the statutory ceiling of 40% set by our own law. This is not just budgetary concern, but a structural crisis that demands urgent parliamentary attention and coordinated reform. That was what he said, that caught the attention of Nigeria. But right now, it's something very different. We are hearing something very different. He says, his media person says, for the record, Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, never condemned borrowing. On the contrary, at the 11th Annual Conference and General Assembly of the West African Association of Public Account Committee, where Speaker Abbas was duly represented by PDP chieftain Babatunde Salam, he made it clear that public debt, if managed prudently, can be a tool for growth and prosperity. That the legislature rule is to ensure that every naira borrowed delivers tangible value to Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu GCFR is already working assiduously to reduce reliance on borrowing through a robust non-oil revenue drive, proof of responsible fiscal management. For the first time in decades, Nigeria has made its 2025 revenue target ahead of the schedule without reliance on borrowing. This is proof that with discipline, focus, and courage, we can reduce dependence on external loans and secure our economic sovereignty. Enitan stated that Abbas didn't condemn public borrowing, but called for a proper oversight, transparency, and accountability so that it translates to the development of Nigeria's economy. In his word, he says that the speaker call was not against borrowing, but for stronger oversight, transparency, and accountability so that debt translates into real development. That's like building roads, schools, hospitals, and innovation. According to him, he said, let it be known, oversight of public debt is a constitutional duty and a moral responsibility of Parliament. This is about safeguarding Nigerian financial future, not playing to the gallery of mischief maker. And I ask a big question. What's the difference between this rebuttal and what he said yesterday at the 11th Annual Conference and General Assembly of the West African Association of Public Account Committee? For me, there is no difference, because as much as he's talking about the developmental position of any country that borrows so much, at the same time, if you listen to what he said yesterday comparing the debt rate that it has even surpassed what is the statutory ceiling of 40% set by the law, that they have even borrowed above. What's the difference? Now, a few days ago, the president was very boastful when he talked about the issue of meeting his revenue target, that they have made their revenue target for 2025. I think as at last year was 14 trillion. Now we've gotten to 20 trillion or billion. Now, after that, before he left Nigeria, we had a new message, and that one was that the president will be borrowing, or had already made demand into World Bank, $1.75 billion was his request from World Bank. But he just celebrated that you have been able to, exceed your revenue, non-oil revenue, which means there should be no need for borrowing. The big question is, what is going on? Nigerians are asking questions. Abbas, who consolidated on the position that Nigeria is at a critical point when it comes to borrowing, all of a sudden had to give a rebuttal. That's not what he said, though. Actually, this is what he said and all of that. My colleagues in the house, and we're just wondering, where are we heading? Why is it that sometimes when they go out there to present certain positions, they get lambasted by the party or maybe by other people, and all of a sudden, they come back to say, no, that's not what we said, and all of that, because it's very repetitive when it comes to this government. What's your standpoint on this?
It's obvious that after, listening to what they said and hearing the reactions of most Nigerians on social media, it gets clearer that they may have goofed, they have misfired, and the adverse effect is what they are feeling. And sometimes when their colleagues get to hear what they have said, they say, are you for or are you against? Yes. How can you go there and say that we have exceeded our limit? Haven't you been singing on your mandate we stand? What are you trying to say? You can see how coalition is busy firing us left, right, and center. You're going to say we have overborrowed. Are you trying to paint us black? Go back and correct that thing you have said.
And I think that even Dino Malai leverage on
it, of course, because come on, if you say it's not true, okay, tell us the truth. If you say that's not what you mean, okay, based on the fact you mentioned that the percentage have been exceeded, is that percentage truly, is it existing? Yes. Have you exceeded it? Yes. Then you didn't say anything. The only thing is that maybe the angle you came. We are intelligent Nigerians. Whatever angle you come from, if you have exceeded it, you have exceeded it. Exactly. It's simple and short. Like most Nigerians will say, the problem is not really in the borrowing, it's what you do with the money. What you do with the borrowed money. And we hear things like somebody did a renovation of a house, of a vice presidential lodge, which right now I don't even know if Shetima is even living in there. And you're hearing this in billions. And you're beginning to wonder how much was even used to build it in the first instance. A lot of these things beg for question. And why you see most Nigerians being worried that these monies are not grants. At some point it will be paid for. Mm-hmm. And when we will start paying for them, this government will not be on seats there.
Of course.
And now the people who are on seats in Nigeria will now start making demands that you should do it right. One as the people who spoiled it have gone. Mm-hmm. They've gone with the whole money, and just living a quiet life, shouting from their safe heavens and say, come on, govern well, govern now, time, govern well.
And some of them may have even passed on asking us that we should forgive them. Tell Nigerians that we should forgive them. It's quite troubling to see Nigeria go through all of this. But be that as it may, Nigerians have taken the first step in his rebuttal. Most people are not interested in it because actually what he said was true. And I feel that the position that he portrays on the responsibility of parliamentarians doing the oversight function of ensuring that these borrowing are rightly positioned for the developmental stride of this government should be the point of emphasis for them, because they have really failed in that responsibility. It's something that is should be taken into consideration. If at the end of the day the president borrows, have you cared to ask him, what really do you want to use this money for? If he tells you this is what I'm going to use it for, have you cared to follow up to ensure that all the borrowing are directed to what it was meant for?